Okay, we'll reconvene to open session at 7:00 PM. Can I get a motion, please?
So
I
moved.
make a motion.
Motion by member Smith, second
Yes.
by member Nolenberg. I'm a yes. Member Nolenberg,
Yes.
member Smith,
Yes.
member Espinosa,
Yes.
member Lynn.
Yes.
A motion carries 5-0. Announcement, tonight's meeting is being digitally recorded. And item 8 is Pledge of Allegiance led by member Nolenberg.
Yeah, well, I don't have a flag in front of me.
Either do I.
Okay, so we all rise and place our hands over our heart and begin.
I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag
of the
of the United States of America
and to
and
the
to the
republic
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, number 9 is announcement of actions taken in closed session. Tonight's closed session agenda item was public employee discipline, dismissal, release pursuant to Government Code Section 54957. In closed session, the board took action to non-reelect the following first-year probationary certificated employee pursuant to Education Code Section 44929.21B, effective at the end of the 2019-20 school year. It's employee number, is that an O, Q, or O? OP 9392450, or 0, I guess. The board directed the superintendent or her designee to send out appropriate legal notices. The roll call vote was as follows. Ayes, member Lynn, Georgino, Nolenberg, Smith, Espinosa. There were no noes and no abstentions. Okay, next is special recognition presentation, and there is none. Item 11 is public comment on agendized and non-agendized items. Do we have any, Josh? Or I think he's muted. Okay, apparently we don't.
I apologize. Yes, we do not have any posted.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to district updates. Business services, Mary Ann Sorrell.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi.
The first update is regarding PARS. The enrollment window for the early retirement closed on April 15th. The district received a total of 27 enrollments, 22 of those being certificated non-management, 4 classified non-management, and 1 classified management. Staff will be coming back to the board at an upcoming board meeting to discuss the financial results. Cabinet is currently analyzing projected enrollment and staffing needs related to those projections. The second item is related to the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. On March 22nd, the President approved California Disaster Declaration DR 4482, authorizing FEMA to reimburse for emergency protective measures related to COVID-19. The district has applied and the application has been acknowledged. More information to follow as we get more information from FEMA. A staff concern from La Rosa came forward on March 13th, which was a very interesting day for all of us. And the principal contacted me regarding some staff concerns about room 10, 11, and 12. And the concern was related to potential mold. M&O staff reached out to the firm that conducts all of our environmental testing for the bond projects. It took about 2 weeks to get them out for an appointment and to do testing, and then about 10 more days to get the results from that testing. There were no findings in the air in the rooms. However, there were very low findings within the air ducts. The next step for us is we've reached out to a company that comes out to clean air ducts, and we are waiting for them to finalize their bidding. Any of the rooms that were modernized at La Rosa already have new ductwork, so they will not be impacted, but any room that had existing ductwork will be part of that bidding process, and we'll come back to you when we have those finalized. My last item is Myra Rudell, the principal at Emperor, came up with a really great idea for our students. And the idea was to assemble school supplies for distribution to students that might have a need during this time. The supplies were based on principal input of what would be appropriate for different age groups, and a team of volunteers distributed those this past Monday with approximately 800 bags of school supplies. The students and parents were very appreciative, and some of the kids were very, very excited to get crayons and felt pens and things like that. And additionally, the district would like to thank Kiwanis for a wonderful donation of $1,000 to offset the expense of these supplies, and to Mrs. Dawn Taryn for donating $100 to offset these expenses. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Educational services, Joshua Porter.
Just a couple of updates right now. Last week, we received our first shipment of student devices that came in. They're all being stored and held in a secure location at this time, with the exception of a few of the ones that we need when the requests come in for new student devices. At that time, we're imaging them, we're processing them and getting them out. We appreciate Hannah Getty with coordinating that for Andy Harper at this time. Another item we have is that we have this process that we're using for our board meeting has become a more formalized process at the district. We've seen some success with it and have extended it through other meetings like our personnel commission, and we find it to be a pretty useful from now through the end of the year. So we're going to continue with this and making sure that we can open it up to the public. This meeting is being broadcasted on our own YouTube live channel, which is now officially ours. And I'd like to thank Robin Penn for being one of our first subscribers to that channel, which is quite nice. So I appreciate that. As another update, as we progress into this distance learning environment, we are reviewing all of our student protocols and privacy protocols with the programs that we're using, monitoring those and compiling a list of any future programs that the staff may need. I think some interesting facts that as we move into the next portion of this, when they talk about grading, is just to kind of see how some of this has changed with some of the programs that we use with our elementary kids, like ClassLink. Right now, just today alone, there were 2,124 points in which students accessed ClassLink today. That compared to this time last year, the 69% increase. Over the last month, we have seen 182% increase with that use. So that's just our lower levels. And as you look into the higher levels, we're seeing, this time about a month and a half ago, we averaged about 300 Google Classroom activities a day. And right now we're looking at about 700 active accounts each day. And considering that the high school and the secondary levels split days, they don't do it all at the same time, that's a pretty significant increase in numbers. And so I would like to share that with you. As we, a little bit later, we'll be talking about the grading in ed services.
Okay, thank you. Personnel services, Monica Makovitz.
Good evening, everyone. I want to congratulate CSEA 825 for ratifying the negotiations and contracts. I know they faced a challenge with doing it online, but they persisted and were able to complete their voting process last Friday. So I want to thank Art Contreras and his team for getting that done. The LCAP survey is in its last few weeks. The survey closes for parents and students on April 24th, and for staff, it closes on April 30th. I want to thank the hundreds of people who have already participated. And if you haven't had a chance to log on, please, or click on the site or link, please do. It doesn't take very long and we would appreciate your input. The classified study is in its last full swing of the appeal process. We received hundreds of job descriptions that we are meticulously going through. The unions, the advisory committee, the directors, executive cabinet, and all site supervisors and staff admin. We're going through the drafts of all the job descriptions, making our final edits, and we will be done with that in the next few weeks. And we will enter the final phase of the classified study. I do want to thank everybody and all employees that have participated. I know it is a complex process, and I appreciate you hanging in there to complete it with all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to item 13, which is bargaining unit comments. And I have something to read from TCEA. Good evening. I hope you and your families are all safe and healthy. TCEA is extremely grateful for Dr. Fricker's leadership and collaboration. She has worked tirelessly over a month with her team to guide the district through this time. Every detail, no matter how small, has been thoughtfully considered to allow Temple City teachers and students to thrive as we embark together on our journey of distance learning. Although I don't know what the future holds for us during this global pandemic, I do know that Temple City will be in excellent hands with Dr. Fricker leading us into the future. TCEA members were more than pleased when they learned of the retirement incentive being offered by the district and are just as thrilled that it's on the agenda for approval tonight. I'm hopeful that very soon I can say congratulations and enjoy your well-deserved retirement to the 27 employees that will benefit from this early retirement incentive. Our members have received the 2.5% salary increase in their March paycheck, and this week we began receiving our retroactive salary checks in the mail. We appreciate Marianne Sorrell and her team for their work on this, and our members look forward to receiving their retroactive health insurance and stipend checks, as well as a 2.5% increase to stipends. Thank you, Marianne. I know employee safety is important to Dr. Fricker, and it is paramount for TCEA, which is why TCEA has requested mold testing at La Rosa School. I look forward to hearing about the results of the testing so that when the time comes to be socially near again, all La Rosa employees will be assured that they are working in environmentally safe buildings. Ellen Laughlin, TCEA President. Okay, do we have anything from Robert Penn from CSCA 105? How about CSCA 823, Art Contreras? Anything? Okay.
No comments.
Then we'll move on to Samuel. You moved, Samuel, on my screen.
Hi everyone.
Hi, good to see you.
It's been weird. It's been a weird month. I guess the transition to like an online setting wasn't too difficult. Like students they're immersed in their technology. Right now, I think a lot of concerns from students are like for especially like seniors, there's like graduation, prom, all these events. But ASB is currently working with administration to see like how to plan these events, how they might work in like an online setting. We've been holding events to like keep our students engaged, like bingo. We recently had like a dog tournament, and we would vote on like who's the cutest dog. And we're planning more events, but overall it's been weird, but we're getting through. That's all I have to say for today.
Well, it's good to see you. Next, we'll move on to board member comments, and we'll start with member Lynn.
Thank you, Board President Georgino. Hello, everyone connected to this and watching this. Today is the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, and I wish everyone a very happy Earth Day. I would like to thank Donna for your leadership as the school board president. I would also like to express my appreciation for the diligence and professionalism of our TCUSD teachers and staff. I would like to recognize the superintendent and her administrative team for the long hours that you are putting in to providing distance administrative support to our staff while coordinating with government agencies and developing innovative solutions and plans. What is important is the effort, and I applaud you for modeling that. I would like to acknowledge the resiliency of our students and families. This is truly a historic moment that we are in, and you are making great strides in adapting to all the changes. I miss seeing everyone in person, and I hope that you are all staying safe and healthy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Member Smith?
Okay,
Oh,
there we go. Sorry.
There we go.
Okay. Like Mike, I would like to take a moment to recognize all the administrative professionals in our district who have reached out and gone way over, where they need to help out during these trying times and the change that we've undergone. So it's Administrative Professionals Day, and it's an appropriate time to recognize them for their effort. I also wanted to wish everybody a happy Earth Day as well. Mike covered that far more eloquently than I could, so I'll just leave it at that. Actually, that's really it. You know, I just will say that, as Mike said, there's been so much change and turmoil. I'm reminded of another quote that Jeff Sweeney, who was our assistant superintendent of ed services, used to say. Sometimes he'd say, this may not be the cruise we signed up for, but it's the cruise we're on. And I think everybody's done a great job of making that adjustment and making the best of it. So I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you. Member Espinosa?
Hi, everybody. Good evening. I wanted to start off by thanking those who made donations to our school district. You know, I know it's economically, it's a difficult time for many, and we appreciate all the donations that have come to benefit our students. So thank you so much. I too don't want to leave today without recognizing and expressing gratitude to Dr. Fricker, her cabinet, all the administrators, the teachers, the staff, families and students for all their efforts. Strong leadership from Dr. Fricker and her cabinet. Administrators, thank you so much for staying connected with your students. I enjoyed looking at some videos, and one in particular comes to mind at Longden, Principal, I'm sorry, Holmes, I was going to say Helm, Principal Holmes, who was playing guitar for his students and the families. So that was really entertaining. To the classified staff, you know, doing what's necessary to keep the work moving forward, teachers for employing creative strategies to keep students engaged, parents for their efforts in helping their students with distance learning. I know it can be really difficult. And students, you know, for adjusting to change and working through distance learning. I applaud all your efforts. So thank you so much. I also was watching some of the updates from the high school, and I want to recognize the Skills USA gold level designation that our team received at the high school at the state level. And from what I understand from the video, only 6 schools in California achieved this level. So they'll be advancing to a national model of excellence representing California. So very proud of that great honor. And then the honor that was given to the yearbook staff, I understand they won 6th place for the best COVID-19 coverage in a yearbook. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Member Nolenberg?
Okay, one moment. Okay, I'm on, I guess. And I just like to thank the staff, the students, the teachers, and the administrative people for their adoption to the tough times we have. And I hope we have some lessons learned come out of this, and we apply them at some later date when it's appropriate, when we have the time. That's about it.
Okay, thank you. I also would like to thank everyone who's made donations to the district during this month, including those people that donated to the school supplies. And I'd like to congratulate the Temple City High School Skills USA program, and also the Templar staff at Temple City High School for their awards. I want to thank all of them, the administrative professionals in the district, especially Marie, who does a wonderful job for us and takes such good care of us. Thank you so much, Marie. I wish we could be together with you, but thank you for everything you do. It does not go unnoticed. Let's see. Also, I wanted to announce that next Wednesday, April 29th, the board is going to be doing its self-evaluation. That'll be at 6 p.m. It'll be done in open session, so anyone who would like to can watch, and also we'll be accepting comments and input from the public. So if anyone has any comments or input, there'll be I imagine the same process as they use for this board meeting. And lastly, I wanted to share a little story. I was contacted by a retired teacher from a neighboring district who knew of 2 students here in Temple City District, 2 students at the high school whose family was having a pretty difficult time, loss of jobs, and the kids did not have any devices. And she called the helpline, and she sent me a note this week to tell me that the kids got devices and that everything was great. And she was so appreciative of our district. So I'm sure Hannah had something to do with that, and Andy, and I'm not sure who else, but thank you everyone for everything you do. It really is appreciated, and you're really making a big impact on our students. So thank you for that. Okay, with that, we'll move on to the superintendent's comments.
Perfect. Let me unmute myself. First of all, I am very hopeful that all of our students and our staff and our families and our community out there are very safe and very sound. I miss them all. It's amazing being away for so long and not seeing people every single day. It's a very different reality. We are able to connect to different school sites during their staff meetings, and we this past week were actually reconnected to the high school senate, and so we actually had conversations with them about what is going on across the district with regard to distance learning and the curriculum, the instruction, the grading. How can we be assistant to them? Where can we help? Where are their struggles? And so they were very candid and honest with us. And so the collaboration of working through this process, we could not have done a thing without so many voices out there helping and guiding us to put plans together to then guide the district. So very thankful about that. I want to thank Ellen and Kyla, Robin, and Art for the union leadership going through this process. Taking care of our staff is paramount. Because we know that our staff is on the front line and they are the ones taking care of our students. So that is very important to us. I also want to thank the teachers for all of their tireless effort and the extraordinary stories that they're sharing. Teachers will share with me the first time that they have tried a new software or tried a new program or conducted a different meeting in a different way or conducted an exercise and just converted it to the online environment. And so I applaud all of their efforts, and I know that they're working extremely hard in this environment to stay connected to students, because our students need that socialization and that guidance from their teachers, especially the young ones who have relied on their teacher to be a mentor this whole year. And now they have continued to be that, and all the way up to our high school students who are, going on to the university, those seniors we are so proud of. And we want to make sure that we work with the teachers and the administration, the ASB, to make sure that when we have those activities for them, that they will be conducted in the highest regard for all of the honor and the achievements that they have earned. So we have announced that graduation is tentatively scheduled for August 7th. So we're going to hold that. We don't know what social distancing orders or other regulations we will have to follow at that time. But I know that Richard Lohman and Mike Kidd are working tirelessly to work with our ASBs to make sure that those events are top notch for those seniors, and that they are recognized for their efforts and their work and all their accomplishments that they have had this year. So we want to give them as much as we possibly can. So thank you all for doing that and working in that regard. The technology side of the house has kept pace with the order of the devices have come in and they have then been shipped out. I know that Hannah has done the Hannah Help Desk, which has been manned 24/7. I've sat late into the night with her as she's done that. And so making sure that every parent's question, comment, concern, or staff comment, concern, or student comment, concern is answered in the most efficient, effective manner possible. So we're trying to turn that around within a very short window. And so I think that has been extremely successful so far. And then it's also given us insight as to where the gaps are, so where we can shore them up pretty quickly. In addition to Administrative Professionals Day, we did honor the District Office Administrative Assistants today. So we miss all of them, but we sent them a little bit of a good wishes their way, including Marie. So from all of us on the board, thank you, Marie. And then we also want to I also wanted to mention that it is National Jelly Belly Day, which doesn't seem relevant here, but David Klein was the inventor of the Jelly Belly, and he is a Temple City native. So I think, and with all due respect, this is his day, that he has invented the famous candy. So just a little bit of a nod there. And then we are now currently moving to the end of year closures. We're working with, again, our staff and our administrative staff to develop those end of year closure processes for both our staff and also our students. We've known that we've heard from some parents who, students have left some personal belongings behind in their desks or in their classrooms, or in their lockers. And so we want to make sure that we get all of those items back to them. And then I know that our principals are working on an end of the year kind of celebration for them, since they didn't have those this year. Those will be hosted next year so that they can kind of come back and kind of close out the school year in a different way. But be recognized for all of their accomplishments and their milestones along the journey. So with that, that is the end of my comments.
Okay, thank you. Next is written communications, and I have a few. First, I received the letter from LACO, the AB 1200 compliance letter for the associate superintendent, the assistant superintendent, and the CBO. And that was also sent to staff. So if anybody's interested, they can get a copy. And then we have some emails that were sent in the last couple of weeks, and I'll read those. The first one is from Debbie DeRazio. She says, "Good evening, everyone. I wanted to share something with you that I saw the other day. I've shared it with the superintendent and assistant superintendents. This banner, which I'm sorry, I don't have the picture, but it's a personalized banner, was hanging on the front porch of a house I walked by in Monrovia. I thought it would be an awesome way to honor each student in the graduating class of TCHS. I know the banners would probably cost a significant amount of money, but I feel the class of 2020 is worth it, considering the things they have had taken from them this special year. There would be money spent on the graduation ceremony anyway, so why not honor them in this way?" Then, let's see. I have a letter from, or email from Maria Gardner, and she says, "Dear Dr. Fricker, I hope you and your loved ones are doing well, staying healthy and safe at home. I've been meaning to write this email for a while now. I want to let you know how much I appreciate your daily newsletter, now 2 times weekly. They are very informative and helpful in navigating this very abnormal new normal. I actually don't like that term, but it's the new term everyone refers to now. I want to express a huge thank you for all that you are doing to communicate to students, parents, teachers, and staff in keeping the district updated and informed. I would also like to express my appreciation and gratitude to all the school sites for their effective communication with parents and students. Being an Emperor and Oak parent, I can only speak for the 2 school sites that are doing an amazing job with their YouTube videos. Myra Rudell has been posting daily morning messages to her students, giving fun, thoughtful assignments. Then she ends each day with an evening video showcasing some of the students, their work, talents, and self-expressions. I feel this is a great way to stay connected, and it enables the students to feel important and feel connected to each other. Susan Hemans has also been posting YouTube videos 2 times weekly, keeping the students on task. Both Oak and Emperor teachers and staff have made cute videos to inspire, motivate, encourage, and to show how much they miss and love their students. It's been so encouraging to see how the district has rapidly adapted to the distance learning. It's been a difficult process for everyone, and I am completely in awe of the district's positive response to this crisis. I know it hasn't been easy, to say the least, but I commend everyone for their tremendous effort and dedication. Thank you so much for your excellent leadership, Dr. Fricker. It cannot be overstated that you continue to put the health, safety, and needs of TCUSD students first. Sincerely, Maria Gardner. I have another one. Dear Dr. Fricker, Thank you for your biweekly updates and for acknowledging the losses our students are experiencing by not being able to participate in traditional promotion and graduation activities. I have come to realize that as a parent, I am mourning my own losses of these activities. I was really looking forward to volunteering for my son's 6th grade beach trip, watching him play in Longdon's staff versus student softball game, and celebrating with him at the 6th grade play day and promotion. Both of my children have been fortunate enough to have Mrs. Lamb as their 6th grade teacher, and I am also sad that I won't be able to share in these activities with her. I also want to acknowledge Mr. Holmes, who has been great at being responsive to our needs. As you know, we have amazing, caring staff at our schools. In this time of reflection, I also want to express my appreciation for all of them, especially in this time of transition and uncertainty. Sincerely, Tracy Higa. And the last one says, to whom it may concern, I just want to thank you for doing all you can to celebrate the class of 2020. I do not have students who will participate in these activities. They are in kinder and 2nd grade, but I am moved by the gesture. I have been so pleased by the support we have received from TCUSD during these crazy times. From our principal, Ms. Udell, to our teachers, Mrs. Sue and Mrs. Kochiyama, to the staff who prepares and serves our lunches. We have been so well cared for. Offering internet, providing the opportunity to check out laptops, and communicating with us via these emails have been so helpful. I feel the adjustment to distance learning has gone more smoothly because of the efforts of each district employee. TCUSD is clearly committed to the success of each student, and I couldn't be happier to be part of it. Again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for all that you do. All the best, Amanda Roblack. So, does anybody else have any written communications?
Actually, I do.
Okay.
One of them is from the superintendent's office, and actually Monica already touched upon it, but it was an email that went out to our staff encouraging them to contribute or participate, provide feedback for the LCAP survey. And I would just encourage them to do that. It's important, and their input is valued. And then to that end, 2 other emails that we all received from 2 teachers have to do with the board resolution in our agenda tonight with regard to grading of.
Yeah, excuse me, Matt. We'll read those when we get to that item.
Okay. Okay. Anyway, so they're well written, and I support what they're saying. Leave it at that.
Anything else?
That's it for me.
Okay. All right. If not, we'll move on to item 18 is review Williams complaints quarterly summary for January 1st through March 31st, 2020.
There are none at this time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next is item 19. Adopt resolution 19/2021 ordering governing board member elections to be held on November 3rd, 2020. And I just wanted to make a note that the original resolution said San Gabriel Valley News, and it should have been San Gabriel Valley Tribune and Temple City Tribune that this was advertised in. Okay, Kim, do you have anything to say?
No, not at this time.
Okay, so would someone like to make a motion?
Sure, so moved.
Okay, motion by member Smith.
Second.
Was that you, Mike?
Yep.
Second by member Lynn. Okay, any comments or questions? Samuel, how would you like to vote on this?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So member Nolenberg,
Yes.
member Smith,
Yes.
member Espinosa, member
You're muted.
Espinosa.
I'm on mute, sorry. Yes.
Okay, member Lynn,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Okay, and that motion carries 5-0. Next is item 20. Adopt resolution 19/2022, the resolution on grading during emergency school closures. And I have two comments to read. Good evening, everyone. I just read the elementary grading policy that is going up for board approval tomorrow. It was so frustrating to read. We elementary teachers are working so hard to keep these students engaged. We are creating lessons for 6 subjects, creating videos for any work that may be too difficult to do. We are teaching lessons every day, and we even have to assign PE lessons videos. But now it doesn't matter. Kids won't even earn credit, no credit. Why would a child continue to participate in daily class or complete work that is assigned if they know they won't be graded or even given credit for the work that they complete? What is their incentive? Yes, the top kids will continue to work, but we need the kids that are struggling to keep working. What will happen next year? I, for one, am in total disagreement with this grading policy. Please take into consideration at least giving credit, no credit for elementary students, at least in grades 4 through 6. Thank you for listening, and that's from Debbie DeRazio. Then the other one is, hello, Dr. Fricker, Mr. Gino, Mr. Nolenberg, Dr. Lynn, Ms. Espinosa, and Mr. Smith. Thank you for all your work that you have been doing to keep Temple City strong during the COVID-19 pandemic. I understand that the board resolution tonight will drastically affect how grading is done during this 4th quarter at Oak Avenue. I know that this decision was made in conjunction with LACO, but I must suggest that this proposal will have extremely negative consequences, especially at the middle school level, and should be reconsidered. Here's why. If a student does 0 work during the 4th quarter, but did not fail the 3rd quarter, they will still receive a credit mark on their report card. This means that there are really only a few students in jeopardy of not earning credit, and the majority can turn off their computers and go on summer break now, and will receive the same grade as if they had stayed engaged. Students who have been working extremely hard on their assignments and are earning A's and B's will be denied the full recognition of their labor and will only be given a credit grade. This will encourage students to do mediocre, subpar, or no work at all. Certainly other motivation tools can be used, but if a student really understands that grades and hard work now mean nothing, they will most certainly be tempted to not try nearly as much as before. I completely understand the issue of equity and that there are lots of students who either don't have the access to technology or are in a home situation that does not allow them to work. Certainly special circumstances can be arranged for these students and their grades. But to group everyone into the same pot and deny students that are working hard the full recognition of their work is unfair. Is there another way? Could Oak do something like the high school where the students if the students want to opt for a letter grade, they can? Thank you for your consideration, Aaron Loomis. Okay, would staff like to give us a report on this?
Dr. Fricker, you're on mute.
So sorry.
That's okay.
So I'm going to turn it over to Hannah Getty, who is going to give us a little bit of the background about where the grading MOU came from. And this is the process that we went through to get it to this point.
Good evening, everyone. So, I did echo.
Yeah, you're echoing pretty good.
Sorry. Okay, so I just wanted to start by saying I really appreciate the collaboration that we received from everybody involved in this. It's not an easy decision to put this resolution together. And one of the biggest issues with the resolution is the whole, what we would call the hold harmless part. And that comes from guidance from the CDE, from LACO, and down the line, right? And so this hold harmless is the concept that we can't hold students harmless for what's happening during this COVID-19 school closure period. When they're in our classrooms, when they're on our campuses, we can provide equitable access to their education. Once they're in their own homes and dealing with whatever situation may be in their home, we can't guarantee a level playing field. We can pass out devices, we can try to get internet access, we can do many, many things. But some of these students are with parents who cannot help them with their work for various reasons. Some of these students are having to help their brothers and sisters with their work. Some of these students are having to work to help provide for their family. We have so many variations of what burden students are facing that being able to offer some sort of grading system that can not penalize students seems nearly impossible, and probably is impossible. So the guidance that we received from, like I said, the state, and then through the county, and then partnering with other school districts, we were one of the first people to move on what our plan would be, working with our students, providing teachers guidance on how we could grade assignments and provide feedback. But one of the latter ones to really come out with a resolution, because it's a really difficult decision on figuring out what is the best resolution to our policy to help our kiddos. So in looking at that, I just want to thank a few people. First, Dr. Mercedes Gomez has worked with me hand in hand. We've been trying to work with the guidance we've gotten from LACO, finding what other districts are doing, and trying to see where we fit in that. Accepting and understanding how hard our students work and how hard our teachers work and how much everybody cares. We are a high achieving district, and we don't want to lower standards that we don't need to lower. On the flip side of that, again, we have to be able to answer some really key questions. And so some of those questions sort of deal with, can we provide internet access to all students and be sure they can all access the internet within their home? We can't always guarantee that. Can all students be able to access curriculum through a distance learning platform? So some students are going to have tech savvy parents that can help them more, where other students, and we're talking, all different grades, how are we able to provide this so that everybody can do it? And then going back to our teachers, they were not trained to offer distance learning. This isn't something that they signed up to do. They want to teach in their classroom. So are all teachers able to deliver their content with a continuity so that kids are getting the same thing from everyone, right? And then our teachers are also dealing with their own kids at home and trying to balance all of that. So all of these issues came into play as we talked about it. I really want to thank the Senate at the high school. We had a really powerful discussion about what seemed to be what was best for our high school students. And we start with the high school, those records are permanent. Those are their permanent records, right? And so that became the priority of where we were looking to design this platform based on the guidance from other districts, what other people had done. And in those conversations with the teachers, who are very, very connected to their students, very aware of what's going on and what they need to be able to help their students. There are just some key issues that we have to address, and some of those are content-based. So you might be able to teach one subject online in a much more successful manner than you could another. I'll give you math, for example. I think learning math, especially if you're a struggling math student via online, has got to be pretty frustrating. So there are different things that came up as we talked about this. So that's where we led to, I don't think anybody was in favor of doing grades only. We ran it by some of our students to get some feedback. We got ASB's sort of touch on it. There was a survey that was going out to seniors, and we had to think also about our underclassmen, because COVID-19, knock on wood, is going to be gone at some point, and these kiddos still had a semester that they maybe got credit, no credit, or whichever it may be. So we didn't want to force a choice on anyone. We wanted students to be able to choose. So as we talked to teachers and we figured out a plan to be able to do that, that's sort of where we started it. And looking at other districts and talking about, I think it really comes down to a philosophy of grades. I understand that students work for grades. They work for feedback. They also work to please their teachers, right? And they work to get those accolades. Those accolades don't always need to come in the form of a grade. When we talk about middle school, whether a student receives credit or not, we have to look at the big picture. What's happening with that student's movement? In most cases, all cases, that student's moving to the next level. Of course, unless we're talking about a high school level math class. Those students in the middle school that are taking a high school level math class are getting the same options as a high school. But when we look at middle school, again, you have some very different situations. And so being able to be equitable to our students with special needs, to our students who are language learners, to our students that might be from a lower socioeconomic disadvantaged situation, how can we provide a grade is not something that's individualized. It's not based on, well, these kids over here, they can get these kinds of grades, but these kids over here are going to get these kinds. It doesn't work like that. So trying to come up with a system that was equitable, that would not hold the kids harmless for something they couldn't control, which is COVID-19, and then looking at the districts around us. This is where we sort of landed with it. We spoke to the administration at Oak and offered and suggested, and they sent this out to staff as well, that our kids at Oak still want accolades. I agree with Mr. Loomis. They want to work for something and should be recognized for it. And there's many ways we can do that. We can offer certain awards, not just for 8th grade awards, but we can offer 7th grade awards. We can do distance learning awards. We can do recognizing our students for their efforts and things like that. There are other things that we can put in place that aren't affected necessarily by a grade. So that if a student is receiving credit in a class, that credit is based on it. We do want to keep them engaged. We want to keep them learning, but it's not necessarily about the grade, but more so about what we want them to get. We have to ask ourselves as educators, what is it that I need these students to know? Before they leave me, what do they need to know? And so if we can build incentives around them knowing those things, what they are, then I feel like we can still create that motivation for our students, protect our students from the situation that they had no say in with the COVID-19 circumstances. And likewise with our elementary students, they can still get graded assignments. Students, I agree with what our teachers are saying. Those students want to see rewards. And when they get a paper back that says A, B, whatever it may be, they feel good about that. That can still happen. That doesn't go away. Calculating a final grade based on all of these things, to me and to many of us that spoke about it, seemed unnecessary. That our teachers are still going to give feedback and comments, including comments regarding the distance learning period. So that feedback to the parent about where that child is, where the progress is, what the concerns might be for next year is still going to happen. And to me in elementary, that seems to be one of the most important standpoints is where is that child? How are they developing? How can we best serve them for next year? So if there are gaps in learning, we can address those right away. All of our teachers know that when we come back, whenever that may be, we're going to have to build in some catch-up time. Fortunately, with the way the Common Core standards are, it's a spiral effect. So you're not necessarily missing. If you missed half of 2nd grade, you're a half a year behind. That's not necessarily true. Those standards can build within each other to bring students up. And we all know how resilient students can be. And I think that our teachers are going to do a great job at catching them up and moving us forward. So that's some of the background. We ran everything by our union leadership, who were great partners in this attempt. We also, like I said, partnered with other districts to see what they were doing to see where we stood. And we're right in line with what everybody around us is doing. The local districts around us, Arcadia, South Pasadena, other districts have already adopted the hold harmless, just like we have, or just like we are proposing to do. And so I think it's really important that we recognize what we're offering all of our people. And then at the very last, I'll be very honest, being a teacher of many, many years, I share exactly what these teachers are saying. And I have a 13-year-old son whose district, who is very high achieving district, adopted the home harmless, to the point where my son's not even getting no credit. He's getting no grades. He's getting nothing. So I have to figure out how I'm going to keep this 13-year-old engaged. And, fortunately, it is that relationship he has with his teachers that's keeping him from wanting to excel. And so we ran this by our attorney, our legal counsel, to say, how can we not do the hold harmless? Because that seems to be, in my opinion, the hardest part. That's where we worry that we're lowering the bar. That's where we worry that we're not supporting our teachers for this engagement. And we certainly have the choice not to do it, but there is a huge risk in taking that choice. And that would be the issues of equity. Can we answer those questions that I ran by you? Can we provide equitable access for every single student in our district, our homeless, our foster youth, many of these students that just don't have the same advantage? So this is sort of the background to where we were and where we are now. And I do appreciate the comments from our teachers, and I agree with them. And I think that our administrative teams will work closely with them to provide incentives and keep our students engaged. And the last comment I just wanted to make about it is that the requirement is still there. And I know, we all went through the school systems. It seems like we work for grades. That's why you do anything. If I'm not getting a grade, why would I do it? And it is a CDE requirement. The California Department of Education is requiring all districts to provide distance learning options and all students to engage in those options. So if we're not hearing from students, we are contacting them. We have made phone calls. In very special circumstances, we have made trips to the house to keep social distancing, to make sure everybody's okay. So if our students disengage, we will be in contact. We will be, requiring that engagement. We will be asking for their involvement.
Okay. Anything else? Kim, did you want to add anything?
I think you might be muted.
Can we ask questions or do we need to wait for a motion?
Let's do a motion first.
Okay.
Someone want to make a motion?
I would like to make the motion.
Okay, motion by member Lynn,
I'll second it.
second by member Nollenberg. Okay, questions, Melissa?
Yes, thank you for the background. One of my questions has already been answered about how we keep students engaged. So thank you for that. I just wondered, was this coming up with 3 different grading systems depending on your grade level? Was it mainly because of the equity issue that we couldn't just say across the board at all the different grade levels, we're going to give you a choice of credit, no credit, or a grade, a letter grade like we're doing at the high school? We couldn't do that all the way across the board. Well, yeah, could we do it all the way across the board? What were the challenges? And what's the benefit to having 3 different types of grading systems?
I think, I understand what you're saying, and I think it's a good point. I think that it really comes down to the permanent record to a degree, right? The high school students, that is their permanent record. For elementary, it's not that those grades don't mean anything, because they do, they give feedback. We're still giving that feedback. So for elementary students and parents to have to choose between I want a grade or I don't want a grade, I can't say that there was a purpose in that. We would still be giving them the feedback, right? For middle school, I can see it. It's that gray area, and it is, intermediate school. It's where we are, right in the middle. And so again, those records are sealed records. They don't start until high school unless they're taking those advanced math classes. So I think the purpose in that was because grades can be very personable. And if you're a student who is struggling to be successful, in this circumstance when everything is more difficult, I just don't know if it's worth that, having the student, and I get that they could have the choice, and it's I guess it would be an option. I guess the question would have to be after that, for what purpose, right? If they have a letter grade in a class, it's a letter grade. That letter grade doesn't determine anything, and it doesn't go anywhere beyond that. High school grades do, right? So I can give an example that, some students are in private school. Well, private schools, there's no hold harmless. They're offering distance learning platforms. They have learning management systems. Everything has moved, and those students are going to get grades. Well, our kids are going to go apply for colleges with those same private school kids. So we want our students to have the option for that. For middle school, there's no purpose to it other than I agree, the letter grade means something. And I think that teachers can still offer the letter grade. The teacher can still say, hey, all the work you did, you ended up with an A in the class. It's going to go on their report card as a credit, but that doesn't mean they didn't earn the A, and I get it that it's not on the paper, but that high school transcript, I think, is what we were focused on. And again, it's in alignment with several of the districts around us.
I see. And then my only other question was for the high school, the choice of credit, no credit, or letter grade, is that per class, or it's like one decision on all?
No, it's per class. So a student can get 3 letter grades and 3 credit, no credits, or however they want to do it. And so they'll make a choice. There'll be a form, and they'll be able to choose which.
Okay, thank you.
I do want to make one other comment.
Sure.
Let me just turn up my volume. When the decisions were made about how are we going to address grading, we really focused it in on the student. And not to negate the teacher has a primary role and is absolutely the foundation of delivering that content and that curriculum to the student. And in some cases, we have more ability to help our teachers. We have absolutely limited ability to help our students. And so that kind of was the crux of the movement moving forward. Having said that, we did want to put in, provisions and safety nets so that students wouldn't be inadvertently harmed in this situation as well. And so when we talk about the intermediate school student who has accelerated math, we did want to give them the same opportunity that the high school students do, because those grades will show up on the high school transcript. They don't show up for credit. So it is a credit, no credit, but it does show up in terms of the class was completed and here was your grade. And so that is significant, and it does significantly impact those students who are going to be applying whenever they do apply to colleges. We don't want them to be negatively impacted. We also worked and talked with our teachers about certain areas where can they move on to the next level? Well, what if they don't have the skills to move on to that next level? And because we've transitioned to a distance learning environment, there's no way that we can even guarantee that they do or will have amassed all of the skills, especially in this last quarter, to successfully transition to that next level. And math, the sciences, those types of things would be those classes that we were kind of honed in on. And we did speak with other safety nets that we could put in place. I mean, the teachers understood from both perspectives, and we understood from both perspectives. And so instead of putting in a grading policy, we put it in, what can we do in addition to? So summer courses or remedial courses, especially for our special education students, offering extended ESY programs so that they can go to summer, remediate, bring up some of their skills so that they can come into the fall school year as successful or as able as possible. In math, teachers can assess students and recommend, do you need a summer like bridge class, or do you need a summer opportunity? Do you need something else? Do we need more remediation when we come back in the fall? Do we have to do a review? So we've talked about some of those things so that no matter where the kids fell within this policy, that next year, by the end of next year, those kids will have caught up and have regained those skills, which we felt as administrators and as staff, that was the most important. But we can't gauge how quickly kids were going to go, kids are able to do this. Some it's going to take a little bit longer, some it's going to take a shorter time. So as we move through this is just a grading policy, but we also have to look at the remediation and the interventions that will need to take place during the summer and then all through the next school year, so that we can really help those kids get the skills that they should have had during this time. And again, we don't even know the deficits that are going to be there, but we can anticipate some, and then we can just provide those safety nets and interventions to help them and help those families. So I think teachers were very collaborative in that effort, and they were very happy with the fact that the district is trying to put in some of those other remedies in addition to just standardizing a grading policy. But the grading policy was trying not to have anybody adversely affected. And that's not to negate the hardworking efforts of our teachers. We do know that they work hard and all of their efforts do count. And we're just not able to assist like we normally would on the student end.
Hey, Samuel?
Okay, yeah. Personally, for the high school, I think it's like really good that we have like an option to choose. But I have like a few questions. Would the teachers be informed of their choice? Yes. And how will they choose whether to opt in or not?
Thank you, Samuel. Yes, the teachers will be informed. The high school is working together to put a form out, so it makes it as simple as possible. The form is coming out next week. I think in the letter that went to families, by the 30th, the form will be available, and then students will have up until May 15th to make the decision. And so the students will go in and put in for which classes they want credit, no credit. If a student chooses nothing, it will default to letter grade. So you don't have to do anything if you want letter grades. For any class you want a credit, no credit, you'll go into the form and select that by May 15th, and then we will designate it in Aries for the teacher. We'll give a teacher the copy so that they will know.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, Samuel?
No, that's all.
Matt, did you have questions?
I do. I've listened to everything that's been said. I understand all the time and effort that's been spent discussing it and looking at the benefits and for each possibility. What I really don't understand is why we wouldn't want to offer them the choice at all levels, because it doesn't take away from either the grade or the credit solution. It just gives them what might be best for a student in a class in a certain situation. And so I'm really a big believer that we should, if you can offer them the choice by class in high school, you can do the same thing in middle school, and you can do the same thing in elementary school. And I just don't understand why offering the solution would not work out.
I have a couple of questions.
Oh, did someone want to respond to Matt's question?
Okay,
Or-
sure. And I totally understand. I think that offering the choice in middle school could make some sense there, that it is similar to high school, and that we could give those students the choice. I think in elementary, if we did look at it, it would be grades 4 through 6. There's for the younger grades, I don't see the necessity. I think for grades 4, 5, and 6, you still have to be very, very careful with how you're selecting and choosing grades, because a lot of those students are very dependent on parent support at home. And yes, I understand that some can choose. I think some might not make the choice on time. There are a lot of issues that I think we have to be concerned about, is just making sure that it's equitable. And I think for elementary, the feedback from the teachers, the comments by the teachers, again, is more valuable than the grade. And I think not all teachers would necessarily say that, but I know that a lot of teachers have offered that. I don't know. I understand that we heard from one teacher for representing grades 4 through 6. I'm not sure, and I can't say for sure, but I know in talking to union leadership, there was more direction to elementary the same. So I don't know exactly what the feelings and opinions are of all of those teachers, or how we would want to handle that for elementary. I think when it comes to middle school, again, we just have to be certain. High school students are very prepped and ready, and they understand that what they're doing now matters for college. Middle school students are not necessarily in that frame of mind in every grade level. So I don't know that we can be certain that these students are going to choose by the deadline. If they don't choose by the deadline, then they're defaulting to grades. And am I giving a bunch of students some lower grades that maybe necessarily aren't equitable? So that was sort of the reasoning behind it. And again, following districts around us, it's going different ways. So I agree that the intermediate level is definitely more of a question. I would stick with elementary, that we would stick with the teacher feedback. I think that teachers in grades 4, 5, and 6 can still grade assignments and pass out grades to the student. That student is still getting a grade on an assignment. I don't know that our 4th, 5th, and 6th graders always understand how a final grade is computed. So as they're getting those individual grades on assignments, I think that we can still give them that accolade and still give them that motivation. That would be my suggestion. In middle school, intermediate, I think that we have some of the elementary mindset, we have some of the high school mindset. So I see it. It's an option, and it's something that we could certainly look at doing. That is not what we have put forth, but we can change it and revise it. I think that it's an option.
Mike?
Yeah,
Let me just add on right before Mike speaks to. I think when we talked to our attorney, they reminded us that a teacher's grade is the grade. Like, we have no extenuating circumstance clause to enter in or intervene once that grade has been issued.
But
So, and I have full faith and comfort and knowledge and confidence in our teaching staff. I really do. So it has nothing to do with our teachers and the diligence that they put forward in their classroom. Again, we can't control or guide what happens on the other side of that screen for the students and their families, or what they're living with or within, in order to complete those assignments and turn them in and communicate with the teacher effectively and achieve the way they could have achieved in the classroom. And so with that being said, once a grade is issued, that is the grade that is issued on that student's permanent record. And I think that if we would inadvertently, accidentally, not knowing the circumstances of a student, harm a student because the grade that is assessed in elementary school is by the standard. It's a numerical grade, and it's based on their achievement mastery of that standard. And I know that our teachers are I've been in those grading meetings with the staff, and they are very diligent, they are very hardworking, and they are time honored and true about marking a student's ability based on their true ability and or what they've turned in or the assignments that have come back. And so that standards-based grade in elementary would be a permanent record for that student. And again, we have no ability to intervene and help that student during this time on the other end of that screen. So those are the two cautions that just kind of run through the back of my mind. It's nothing to negate the professionalism of our staff. I do have the utmost confidence in our staff, but we just don't control the human side of the student side on the other side of that screen.
I hear what you're saying, Kim. I just don't see that there's a big difference if the teacher is going to basically go through the process of determining whether a credit is deserved or not. How much harder is it to say whether that's a C or a B or whatever? I don't know. I don't think it needs to be any different this year than it has been every other year in the past. I really don't.
I do. I mean,
one thing I would say, I'm sorry, I was just going to say safeguard we could put in our resolution if we were to consider, the same, the high school practice across the board is that they did this in LAUSD, that they are not giving Fs. They are just the lowest grade you can get is a D.
I guess
so like it defaults.
Yeah, but I think of some of these kids that don't have any help at home, maybe don't have devices, and their parents are probably the ones that aren't going to opt in to get the credit and no credit, and they're going to end up with a bunch of D's or a bunch of F's, and that just doesn't
They'll get a credit or no credit.
No, if they don't opt in, it goes to a letter grade. And their parents are probably the ones that are more likely not to go to the trouble to do the opting in. And so then these kids will end up with a bunch of F's or D's.
Or what if it was reversed? Could you say you're going to get credit, no credit, unless you say you want your letter grade?
So is the underlying question that of student engagement and motivation? Is that the concern?
So that was going to be
from my end. I don't know. Is that my question, Mike, for the other board members, or is that
no? I mean,
just in the thinking itself?
In general, is that what's what the underlying the undercurrent or the underlying issue? Is it?
I think it's an equity issue.
I know the equity exists. No matter how you look at it, the parents able to connect, as well as the priorities at home. We do have healthcare workers who really don't have that much time to help their kids at home, and if they have siblings, the priority in some families might go to the eldest child because of the academic rigors, and then you have the compulsory education. You can't really enforce that at this point with kids who are under the age of 6. So the question is, how do we motivate the kids to get on? And the question for me, I mean, what I'm hearing is the question of student accountability. I mean, that's I think that's where the letter was about. How do we hold students accountable when we don't have the tool being grading kids, which in a way is an extrinsic motivator. So if I may chime in, I have two questions. The first question is a rhetorical one. So I want to thank Anna for your very thorough explanation. I really appreciate the whole harmless explanation, and I understand really from a practical standpoint, from a practitioner myself, the need from a classroom teacher to hold students accountable from a motivation standpoint. Having been a high school teacher, there's a way you got to motivate the kids, right? So, but from an elementary teacher standpoint, I heard Hannah say earlier that connections with the teachers more motivating than the grade, which is true. Developmentally, that is true for the younger grade levels. Now, on the question of student motivation, are you then saying that besides the extrinsic motivator that grades can provide, can students be motivated by experiencing, say, something new or novel? Be motivated by learning a new skill or knowledge? Motivated by relatedness with the teacher, as you said earlier, that connection with the teacher, or to the peers, to the classmates. They just want to see their classmates every day. And possibly be motivated by a level of autonomy and self-determination rather than an extrinsic controlling motivator such as grades. So that's a rhetorical question. So my actual question is, how easy is it to implement Resolution 1920-22 in Aries, given that we have about 30 more workdays for our teachers before the end of the school year, while also providing training for our teachers to implement this new resolution? And I see Andy is still connected. My concern is if we grant teachers too many options, there's a back office implementation piece that we burden another department in terms of implementing that. And if they cannot correctly implement the system, because it's not their fault, it's just that they're also away from their office. How likely is it? How feasible is it to implement what the board is going to pass in terms of a resolution?
Dr. Lin, thank you so much for bringing that up. And it's really the point. We don't ever want to shy away from a lot of work if it's going to help our kids and our teachers. We're all going to be willing to do it, as we've done. It is a really complicated and difficult accounting system to be able to keep track of everybody's choices. And so in making those decisions, we looked at what's the purpose, right? What is the purpose of the grade? Why does it matter? Why does it matter what a certain grade is? And so, for example, if a middle school student got several grades that were not passing, in most cases, that student is still moving to the next level, right? And so in looking at how to handle this situation, for us to backfill Aries, and I have a long conference call set with Aries to talk about this, on how we can set up that system so that the onus is not on our teachers, because that can be very complicated, and to make sure we don't have grade changes and to make sure it's done correctly. And as Samuel mentioned, so we're asking students to make their choices. We have to be able to account for those choices and make sure we don't get it wrong. We're talking about 1,900 high school students. And then you want to add another 1,000 middle school kids, and then another, few thousand elementary students. It just, you are opening up room for error. And you will have parents contact us on May 16th saying, oh, but we forgot, we want to do it. And that's going to break my heart. And I don't want to have to be the one to tell them, like, sorry, you missed the deadline. Like, it's about a deadline. So I think because the high school record is a permanent record, that was really the deciding factor. And again, we're using high performing districts around us who are also doing the credit, no credit in the intermediate level for those same reasons. And I can tell you that I had several intermediate students just get devices the other day. How are those students going to get caught up to the students in their classes who have had a computer at home from the start and who have people at home that can help them or have somebody, you know, I can tell you from this side of it, we are not playing on a level playing field. And so when I understand choices for grades, the assumption would be kids that want the grades are the kids that can handle taking the grades because they've got the access. But that's not necessarily, as board member Georgino pointed out, as President Georgino pointed out, it is very much those students who aren't going to advocate for themselves, who are going to end up with the letter grades that look not pleasant. And when in fact, had they been in the classroom, had they been offered the tutoring after school, had they been put in the promoting to success class and all of these things that we do, these interventions that are no longer available, those D's and F's would have looked like C's and B's possibly. We can't do that for them now. And so it's going to come down to them knowing to make this choice and then us making sure on the back end that we do it properly and that the teachers can keep track of their 160 kids to know who's getting credit, no credit, and who's not. So those are some of the issues, trying to make it as, and I'll be honest, our teachers have reached out. Not all teachers feel like Mr. Loomis feels, right? No teachers always agree, especially on grades. And they have reached out and said, please give me guidance. I don't know how to give letter grades to these students. Can we please go to a credit, no credit, right? And so those are some of the things that we're balancing. If we lean one way, I think you're going to hear from other teachers on the other end of it. So it's just some feedback.
You know, the thing is you just said that the high schools, the grades are permanent, part of their permanent record. But if that's not true for elementary and middle school, what does it matter then, really? I mean, why, if you found an error, if it's not a part of their permanent record, what's the harm?
I think part of the harm could be on the child's self-esteem. If they, you know, end up with an F when they didn't have the opportunity to have the device, to have all the interventions. I don't think that's going to help them in the fall when they, you know, need to get caught up.
An F is a no credit? So what's the difference between an F and a no credit?
What's the difference? I think a no credit is,
and hopefully
it's demeaning. An F can make a child feel like they're a failure. That's what F stands for.
I think Fs get averaged in their GPA. I'm not sure if no credit gets averaged.
Yeah,
correct.
The thing is, the question for me is, are we using the grade to measure the students' learning, or are we using the grade to measure the students' access?
Right.
I'm using it to reward the student for their success.
Can we still do that? I believe that we can. I believe that we can, especially at the middle school level. Having had experience on a middle school campus for years, that those kids care about praise and they care about accolades, and we can still create that environment, whether they get a CR or an NC or a letter grade. I don't know that can make, I think there are other elements that can still affect exactly what you're saying. When it comes to elementary, I don't even know how we would do it. And I don't think there's a single district that is offering marks in elementary that I know of, because it's standard-based grades. How can a teacher measure standards, their access, they're getting a numerical grade based on how they've met the standard? I don't know that you can even offer that. So you would have to offer the lowest point, which would be the second trimester, as a hold harmless. So if many students are at 2s, which is emerging to meet the standard, because that's where you should be in the middle of a school year, they're not going to get anything lower than a 2. I don't know that many of them are going to get a 3 or a 4, because how can we measure that they have met that standard in this distance learning period where their moms and dads are having to sit in the meetings with them or having to help them? Some teachers can't, and some parents have a hard time accessing the curriculum through, you know, their digital device. So I think, again, the feedback that they get is what matters. And that's what matters to the parent about their student. They're going to get that feedback. The kiddos, the older kiddos on the elementary level, 4, 5, and 6, are still going to get graded assignments back. And they care very much about saying, look, I got an A on this paper, or this is, my teacher said this was a good job, I got a happy face. Those are things that matter to them, we're not taking those away. Those things can still happen.
Are there families where there are online tutors where, let's say, you know, you measure learning, right? And the measure of learning is usually done through an assessment. And since the teacher is really not there to proctor, who does the assessment? So that measure is really not accurate. So then if the grade is derived based on assessments that are not really, we can't really proctor those assessments. We have tutors possibly who could help a child complete those assessments. Then are the grades a reflection of the family's ability to hire a tutor?
Right.
As opposed to not. So those are factors that play in my mind when we talk about grades.
That happens whether there's a pandemic or not. It's that situation regardless.
But not in a classroom. When we give an assessment in a classroom, there's nobody there to help that child in the classroom.
But I'm saying if they're going to bring in a proctor or tutor or whatever you want to call it, they can do that whether there's a pandemic or not. So they still have that advantage or disadvantage regardless of the pandemic. So it's kind of a big point.
I really love this very rich discussion because this is not unique to us in Temple City. I've been having principals meetings day after day talking about this. And there is certainly an equity concern. There is this ability to, how do we hold kids accountable with the intent for kids to be motivated from an achievement standpoint? What are those motivators? Are there more intrinsic motivators? And Hannah, you actually, hit the nail right on the head by saying that connection with the teacher. We introduced this novel experience, which a lot of kids are really, I would say the first couple of weeks were like, holy cow, this is great. It's brand new to them, Samuel, you're smiling, I've seen those smiles in the students who took pictures of themselves from their videos and submitted them to me. So the thing is, how do we, novelty wears off very quickly. What are some other intrinsic motivators? That connectedness, really powerful, right? That ability to have some sort of autonomy, some sort of self-determination. This is a golden opportunity for kids actually to learn some metacognition skills, to reflect. We cannot replicate the classroom environment. I don't think we'll do it well if we try to replicate the classroom environment. But the question of grading is also, how do we not demotivate the ones who are motivated? That was the other part of the letter, right? How do we not demotivate the other kids? Now, if we look at intrinsic motivators, usually the locus of control is internal. It's the students who are intrinsically motivated, they don't really care too much about what the other kids are, doing. Their locus of control is internal. But if we use grades as an external motivator in distance education, we risk, oh my God, it potentially could be punitive and the outcome is very unpredictable. I could see parents getting upset with teachers if we pass this resolution saying that, let's grade the kids. We fail them. And then the teachers will actually have to go through that protocol. Let's say they fail a child, they're like, I'm following the board directive. And then they get hit later with a lot of phone calls from parents or parent meetings. Administration can't change the grades. Our teachers might get hit individually because they are faithfully implementing the board policy or the board resolution. So I could see that as a possibility, a possible situation. I want to, I'm going to vote on this based on, I want to protect our teachers. I want to give them the tools to be able to motivate students so that they're accountable for their learning. But I don't want to vote on, I'm not going to vote in favor of something that's going to hurt our teachers in the long run.
I will say, if I can just jump in, that when we talked to Kyla and Ellen and we talked to them extensively, I think we worked all Friday, all Saturday, all Sunday, and kind of called them intermittently as this was evolving. And that was in addition to the work that was done last week on this MOU. And one of the serious points of the conversation was, how do we take stress even off our staff who are at home? They may have young ones of their own. They are doing their classroom and teaching the students and planning and prepping and all that they need to do. But staff was expressing some stresses as to, how do I grade? How do I assess? How do I figure out navigating an online learning platform when I'm thrown into it. I haven't had a year's worth of teaching and training and building and prepping to be able to do this very efficiently, very effectively from the beginning. And I didn't have the time to train my students as to how to do this as well. And I will say, you know, working in a former district and putting in an online learning platform, we took an entire year. We took an entire year to look at platforms, evaluate platforms, look at curriculum, look at instruction, look at training. Our staff went through 5 months of training prior to that first class. And that was in an ideal environment. And so this is not necessarily in an ideal environment on either the staff or the student, but, you know, and working with Ellen and Kyla, knowing their staff the way that they do, they didn't want undue stress on staff to have to issue, especially at the lower elementary levels, to issue a standards-based grade given this environment and given the fact that some of the students, especially at the elementary level, they didn't come in to get devices right at the onset, whereas your secondaries did, your secondary students. And so we were still handing out devices this week. Luckily, we had ordered a shipment and we had gotten them in and we'd gotten them imaged and we'd gotten them out. And, you know, we were at the forefront of doing that and trying to get them out as timely as possible. But there's so many other constraints and factors that go in that we cannot mitigate and we cannot control, no matter how we've tried to be as proactive as possible. And this is the bigger decision for me. It's not, if it were me and the hold harmless or harm punitive or positive would come to me, absolutely, I would take it. But I would never put that on a child. I have a very difficult time determining the fate or a grade or a mark or a label or something that would be permanently imprinted on a child at a time when there's so many factors outside of all of our control. And we're trying to do the very best job we can, but we don't bear the brunt of the result of it. The students do. I realize some students want grades and some students, they may not even be able to achieve the things that they need to achieve those grades. And it's not fair having a I normally say one size fits all does not fit all, but there's no way to mitigate these circumstances to make sure that children are not inadvertently, and I'm not saying a teacher would ever do this, but inadvertently harmed in this process. This is as close to holding accountability, maintaining the standard of Temple City, and that was talked about greatly, that we could possibly come. And in the elementary levels, assignment of grade, not meeting of standard, you can have retentions, you can have further punitive consequences when all of our students were thrust into a situation that they didn't create, they cannot control, and they do not want. And to have short-term or long-range punitive measures that could possibly come is something that was the crux of the conversation with the union and with the teachers and with the ASB students. And that was the crux of the conversation. And so it's not to negate a teacher's passion and willingness to teach and willingness to instruct and embrace their job. We fully applaud those teachers and fully embrace them and commend them. But we can't hold a child accountable for something that they did not create and they do not want, and they're just kind of thrust in the middle of this life that we all are living.
Kim, oh, sorry, go ahead, Matt.
Go ahead.
Matt, I think is on mute.
Mute. All right, let me see if I can squeeze in my question.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, first, I guess I kind of take issue with the fact that we're putting the burden on the child. We aren't putting this burden on the child. It's not a burden. And I'm not looking at this as being punitive at all. I'm looking at it as being a reward situation for the kids who excel, get motivated by the good grade. And again, if we're giving the family, the student and the child, the option to choose which way of grading they wanted to be rendered, then I just don't understand why that's an issue. I don't understand why it's any different this year than it is when the year when we don't have a pandemic. It's the same thing either way. It's the same issues.
So if we get,
I would like to just real quick.
Yeah.
I would just say, look, my preference is like one policy that applies to all. That is really my preference. I am very conflicted about this topic. I just think that, we'll have those same concerns that we've all talked about with high school kids too, but we're implementing the policy at the high school level with those same concerns in place. And I think that if we could do one policy across the board, I would love that. But I hear everybody's, concerns and all the points made. They're all very good points. So I'm really conflicted.
so Kim, a corollary to the hold harmless, holding students harmless, is we have possibly other school districts rewarding students with, you know what, you've done good enough and you're getting an A. And so our students will be getting B's and possibly C's, whereas other districts, B's and C's are A's. And we have high school students then applying to colleges later, and they will be less competitive compared to students in other districts. So how do we apply the hold harmless a little bit further and actually help our kids, high school kids? I see Samuel nodding his head.
Do you want to say something, Samuel?
I feel like, yeah, that would work, but at the same time, it could backfire for a lot of our students who like are top of their class and like they can't really shine if everyone else is just getting A's, if you get what I mean.
I do understand what you're saying. So when we talked about Temple City, we talked about our teachers and our standards and the high achieving students that we do have and the standards that our students have to achieve. And our teachers hold those students to those standards extremely well. We didn't want to lose sight of that. We didn't want to lose sight of the honor and the tradition that is Temple City. We didn't want to water down anything. We didn't want to give away anything. We didn't want to minimize effort on the teacher's part or on the student's part. And so when we looked at other districts who said everyone's credit, no credit, we really thought, well, that's not really fair. Our students are competing, our high school students are competing in a world where they're wanting to get into college, they are pursuing higher academic desires and paths, and we want to make sure that they are and remain academically competitive, because there are private schools out there who they are holding the line on grades and they're going to be issuing grades across the board. There is no option in a private school for credit, no credit. And we want to make sure that those students who are in A through G classes, are in AP honors classes, that they are able to do the work with their teacher to the best of both of their abilities, teacher and student, and earn the grade that that teacher feels necessary based on what they're assigning and assessing. Yes, it's standards based, but at the high school level, the secondary level, it's A, B, C, D, E, or A, B, C, D, F. At the elementary level, it is standards based and it's 1, 2, 3, 4. And so that was the difference in thought in terms of having the leveled grading for each specific needs, the content they teach, and the purpose of issuing those grades. And for the elementary student, whether they got credit, no credit, or whether they got a 1, 2, 3, or 4, they are moving on to the next level in elementary. If it's an intermediate student, whether they get credit, no credit, or A, B, C, D, E, A, B, C, D, F, they're still moving on in those 8th grade years, or still moving on to the 9th grade. They're still promoting. And when we looked at that, that's when we said there could be gaps, there could be skills that were not acquired. We need to intervene, we need to do something different so that when they promote, they move on We have a mechanism to catch them up, fill a gap, fill their skills, do something to intervene and help them so that they can achieve at that next level, because that's where they're going. With the high school students, we wanted to have them have a choice to remain competitive. And the hold harmless was just credit, no credit. And so we went out on a limb and we said, no, we want to do better for our high school students. We applaud the efforts of our teachers and our students, when we talked to them and we went in front of the Senate and we said, this is what the MOU says, it's credit, no credit. And we talked it through, and we wanted to give our high school students the ability to earn those letter grades should they want to. And it's the student's choice to go for a letter grade or not, right? It's not our policy saying it's all credit, no credit, or it's all letter grade. Because we want them to be as competitive as they possibly can when they are applying with whatever year they're applying to college or higher education. And that was much more important to us. That became the purpose. So we really had to have this condensed philosophical conversation about what grades really mean and what they really do and the significance of them. And for the high school student, it is a permanent grade on their transcript. It follows them, that transcript follows them for the rest of their life. And we wanted those students to have the autonomy to be able to choose what they wanted that transcript to look like. And they will have the fighting chance to have that look exactly the way they want it to look. If there are students who are struggling in high school, and there are some, and they're going to struggle more at this level in a distance learning environment. If they want to choose credit, no credit, and that fits for them, that fits for them. And it becomes a mechanism where they can catch up, or they can move on to that next level, or they can be recommended for an intervention in the summer or next year. We do have all of those other provisions. So it was not a short-sighted conversation. It was many, many, many days of conversation. And then it was literally Friday, Saturday, and Sunday on the phone back and forth with Kyla and Ellen as we kind of refined it out. And our heart was in the place of doing what's best for kids, all kids. And you can't just parcel them. The problem is you can't parcel them out and do an intervention for this group or an intervention for that group, or hold this kid, this group of students to a certain standard and this group of students to a different standard. We don't have the mechanism to do that in this environment. We just don't. And so it was incumbent that we try not to have any punitive measures to students. And we try to be as time honored and true to Temple City and our teachers and the high achievement that we have had and the students' needs at the various grade levels. So that's really how this came to be.
I'm gonna say that real quick. You know, I think we're holding our students to a much higher standard.
We are.
What society is doing with inmates. Like, for example, Paul Manafort didn't earn his way out of prison, right? Yet we're saying our students, you gotta earn the grade while doing distance education. And I'm thinking, no, we gotta give our kids, you know, some leeway here. We have to, I'm saying being competitive, if our kids are getting B's and C's and students in other districts are getting A's, because this is like, it's not their fault, right? But when it comes later, and this is temporary, it's not gonna be like they get straight A's, you know, forever. It's only when we have pandemics like this, where we're staying at home, let's take that hold harmless a little bit further. And I know it's not in the resolution, but I would encourage our teachers to really see it from that perspective and you know, reward the kids for connecting.
And all I'm saying is we should give the kids in middle school and elementary school the same choice that we're giving our high school students, the same choice.
I have a question. If it turns out that we have distance learning in the fall, can we come back and revisit this resolution and make adjustments based on how things happened this quarter?
So in thinking about the fall, which I don't even want to jinx.
I know, I don't want to go there either, but.
I know. But in thinking about the fall, like that came up. And so not only are we going to have to redo grading, we really are going to have to put in a learning platform and training for our staff during the summertime so that they have a consistent way, a standard way of communicating the curriculum to the students. And then we have to have assurances that every student has a device, every student has been checked out a device, and that they also have the training of working with that learning system to submit assignments and assessments and whatever they are asked to do to achieve mastery of those standards. So when we talked, especially with, Dr. Gomez and Hannah, who are working primarily on the student services side and the curriculum instruction side, to roll out this for a semester long and have any consistent type of learning and achievement to assess, we would have to roll out a learning management platform, have training for our staff, have training for our students coming back, and then, having a mechanism where we can be rest assured that everyone has at least as equal playing field as possible. We did have situations where we are buying Wi-Fi or MiFi for students who don't even have access to the internet. We have students in hotels who we had a difficult time getting devices to and getting Wi-Fi services to. We tirelessly around the clock. There is a picture of Hannah and I sitting at Hannah's help desk at her dining room table at 2:00 in the morning. And it was like, hi, this is Hannah's help desk. May I help you? Because we're trying to go back and forth triaging. And that was earlier on when it was literally 18-hour days, going back and forth, just trying to make it work. And so I understand that we probably have much more of a background knowledge of where the significant gaps could be for some students and student pockets or populations that maybe, other people don't have direct access to or don't have direct experience of. But my caution is, for this quarter of the school year, students have been in classes for 3/4 of the year. They have been with our teachers for 3/4 of the year. We kind of know what kind of students they are, yes, but we have no ability to help them. We have no ability to make an intervention. We have no ability to intercede and help those kids at this time. Now, if we go into the fall, absolutely, Donna, this is not going to be the only thing that needs a revision. And we already have started bulleting out and working out those plans and putting in those meetings. Should we get word that we may not be going back in the fall? And I'm not saying that we are not, but I'm saying some colleges are already calling fall sessions online. And so Cal State Fullerton did it yesterday or today. And so you saw Harvard do it. You're now seeing that popcorn effect where other colleges are coming on board. Long Beach called today, ironically, and they said, well, Fullerton just declared and we may declare. So Long Beach may be the next one that's coming up and they're going to go on. And I'm not saying that they are, but I know that colleges are already talking about it. And if colleges are already talking about it, we know that we should be talking about it. So when Harvard declared, we started planning. We started talking because that could be a situation we're facing. However, and when we do face it, we're going to face it head on, and we're going to have a plan for it. And for this, I wish I could have provided a better plan up front all along that every student wouldn't be caught in a negative situation, but I just can't guarantee you that. If I can't guarantee you that, to the very best of my ability, I don't think a student should have an adverse effect. And I agree that some kids are going to be rewarded, but there are going to be some students where it's not going to be a reward. They're going to have a negative impact of that. And that's what we tried to minimize. And there are certain staff members, when we talk to staff members, and I hope I'm doing justice to Ellen, because staff members said, I just don't know how to grade them fairly and effectively. And they were agonizing over it, because what they're called to do in the standards requirement and what they're able to communicate to students and get back from students are two different things that are not connected. Not for all kids, but for definitely some. And a teacher whose heart is to teach and whose heart is never to harm a student when you're faced with this moral dilemma of, I know I should grade this way because this is the way I've been taught to grade, and this is the way I know how to grade, and I know this is the standard of grading. And then I'm thrown in this environment where that does not match up any longer. They were agonizing too. And so we took in everyone's voice. We took in not 100% of every person, but we tried to get different stakeholder groups together to lend conversation to this. And this is a much more stringent grading policy in terms of offering letter grade versus not at the high school level than other districts in our area. And that's because we do want our kids, our high school kids, to be competitive. We do want to have every fighting chance they can to get into whatever school they want to get into and be as successful as they want to be. And on the teacher side, it's not just to give away a grade. It's not just to give away and say you don't have to do any more work. It is incumbent for them to engage in that learning environment. It's just to negate the punitive aspect of what could happen.
I want to understand Member Smith's proposal, which I really like, which is the choice piece, providing options. I don't want to have our teachers get hit later by parents to justify why do you give my child this grade afterwards. But I also like this idea of providing options and choices. But I want to make sure I understand what Member Smith is saying, Matt. What you're saying. So if a teacher wants to opt in the high school's approach, the teacher can, right? Let's say
it'd be the family who wants to opt in. We would be giving them, the students and the family, the choice as to whether they want the credit, no credit, or they want the ABCD.
Okay. So if the family gets the option, I'm just thinking from an administrative implementation piece, how do we keep track of that from a documentation standpoint and the Aries implementation standpoint?
Yeah, is it doable?
Is it doable?
And
Anna, you're on
mute.
You're shaking your head, we can't hear you.
You can't read my lips, sorry. So it will be a lot of work. I don't ever want to say something isn't doable. If it's best for our kids and our families, then we'll always find a way to do it. It is doable, but I want to be really clear, and I can't speak for everyone, but I believe that at the elementary level for sure, and I do think possibly, I think at the intermediate level, we might have split feelings on it, but I think the majority of our elementary teachers will feel a huge burden to have to issue a grade for a family that asks for it. It is nearly impossible to do standards-based grading in a distance learning environment. And I will tell you that in the help desk, I just had a family the other day email me and say, I don't understand what's going on. I didn't know the school was closed. My son hasn't heard from his teacher. And it was 3-4 weeks later, and I was appalled. And I reached out to the school, and we had tried to make contact, and it was not happening. And this might have been a divorced family where there was some miscommunication. I don't know, but at the end of the day, that's a great example of a family that's not going to opt in for the correct grading choice because they're not as connected as we would hope that they are. Not all of our families are as connected and know how to communicate in the way that we would need them to. At the high school level, many of those students, not all, but many of them will advocate for themselves because we do have a college going culture. That's a WASC accredited institution. Those are A through G courses that we have an obligation to meet, that we must provide instruction in those classes. So we have to follow what's bound to us by that. For elementary and middle school, to follow all of those obligations because we want to keep the high achieving kids feeling good is, to me, what are we weighing here? I think I can still make those kids feel great for the hard work that they're doing. I feel like we can still celebrate them. I look at what our elementary schools do and how they celebrate our kids all the time. I believe we can keep exactly that feeling of getting that final grade for those elementary and middle school kids, to be very honest with you, in the same way without giving the letter grade. I want to also point out the hold harmless means that the floor would be when we left. So March 13th would be the floor. Let's say you're a middle school kid and your teacher, for whatever reason, the semester's only been in place for about a month, your teacher had one assessment, you aced it because it was review, you did great, you have an A. So now doesn't matter what you do, that's the floor. So now that student has an A. There's no motivation for that student either, right? Because they're going to get an A because that's the lowest grade they can get. So no matter.
Only if the year ends in March.
But it does, that's what I'm saying. The hold harmless is that the floor is March 13th. So whatever your grade is, you can only get higher. So if you have an A, March 13th, you have an A. And so that's the frustration with this. I agree. It's frustrating because that's the lowest you could go. That's what the hold harmless is. We would have to choose not to do the hold harmless. And then that's obviously issues. So that's part of the issue. The credit, no credit is part of making these things more level, because March 13th, when we left, that's the final grade. Now, a lot of kids had D's and F's because they know, oh, I got the whole semester to do this. I don't know. We all deal with high school kids at one point, either having them or knowing them, and they know how to balance this out. They know, okay, I have 400 more points. Our elementary and middle school kids don't necessarily know those things. They don't necessarily look at it that way yet. So my point is that grade, whatever, if we give them the choice, that grade is still not reflective. It's still not doing what we're asking it to do at that elementary and middle school level. What we can do for those kiddos is work with them, give them feedback, provide incentives, and make sure they are prepared when they leave us, that we did everything we could, even in this pandemic situation, to make sure they can be successful next year, no matter what next year looks like. Those high school students, we have an obligation by our WASC accreditation to make sure we are doing everything we can, and we are a high achieving high school. We must stay competitive, and I believe we've done that. Our Senate was in agreement. I feel like we've done a good job for the high school. I appreciate wanting to do that same thing for our elementary and middle school because of the culture of the district. But the work you're asking your staff to put in, and I'm not talking about me, I'll do the work. I'm talking about my teachers that have 3 kids at home themselves, and so they're teaching their own kids, they're teaching their kids, and now they have to worry if the student is meeting the standard and how they're going to assess them accurately. I think we're putting a burden on our staff that is unfair also. And so I don't want to be unfair to our students and families. I don't want to take away accolades. I don't want to take away from our high achieving kids. We can give papers back that say A, we can give papers, but we can give feedback and say, wow, I'm so impressed with you. Wow, you just wrote this like a 7th grader and you're in 5th grade. That's amazing. I can tell you that a 5th grader is going to take that way far greater than the 4 they get on their report card. So I just think, I understand everything you're saying and I agree with it, but I think we can do it. I think we can do both without overburdening our system. So I just hope you'll consider that when you look at this, and I agree that if this goes into the fall, it's a whole new ballgame. That's a different situation. We're trying to get us through this awful period that we couldn't plan for, and we couldn't prepare our kids for, or our teachers who are struggling to keep everything going, and they're doing an amazing job. So asking them to do one more thing, even though I understand that some of them are upset about it and the motivation, and that's really what I think they're most concerned about, because I'm frustrated with it. To know that March 13th is the final, you're now telling kids, okay, you have a B, you can't get worse. That's frustrating. I totally agree with that. I worked with the lawyer over and over again. I worded 5 different statements and she kept saying, Hannah, I don't understand what you don't understand. This is hold harmless. You either may do hold harmless or not do it. And those are the options.
But that's the way it's going to be in high school regardless.
Correct.
So it's already happening at one level.
But it's a different level for a different reason. That's what I'm saying. I don't understand.
Okay.
At the high school level, I agree. You have to also remember your high schools have finals, right? They're built on a semester. You have quarters and you have other things going on and you have a trimester and a quarter system with these other schools. High schools, they know, like within that first month of a high school semester, there's not necessarily enough there that, I don't know, it depends how many assessments they took. I think, and Samuel can speak to this, I think it's the reverse. I think many of our high school students are panicked because they're not at the grade they wanted to be on March 13th. So they're hoping and praying that there are enough points left in that semester to get to the grade they want to get. Because our students don't want credit, no credit. The majority of our students would rather take the letter grade, but only if that letter grade is pleasing. And so they're hoping when they look at those numbers, not being able to take as many assessments, if that can happen. So I agree, Matt, yes, it could happen, but I don't believe that's the case. And every assessment, everything that I've heard from students through the help desk, from parents, the concern is more, hey, I'm at an 84%. I'm really nervous that I can't get to my A that of course I'm gonna get, and I feel terrible for that student because I don't know how they can get to their A. That's between them and their teacher and what the teacher can provide in a distance learning environment.
Well, Hannah, you said earlier it's impossible to have elementary school teachers, taking care of their 3 kids at home. And, the scenario is great because I see it. I'm homeschooling my 2 kids and it's not easy. And so, and I'm teaching them history and I'm like, that's not my field. That's not my forte, But I totally see that from that, the parent perspective. And I appreciate that you gave the example. When you say it's impossible, I would say it is possible, but you got to give it time. When we implemented standards-based report cards, it took years. It took a lot of professional development. It took a lot of input. We're still not perfect yet. It takes a lot of work. So I wouldn't say it's impossible, but it's a lot of work. And I also appreciate it's not just the administrators keeping track of the choices, but let's say from a teacher standpoint, let's say, you have 20 kids at elementary, I guess if we're lucky, right? 25 kids, right? 25 kids in a class.
Kids are gone, yeah.
Right? And let's say, I don't know, 12 of the families want standards-based. And let's say we have a standards-based approach, right? Already. This is already 2 years, we've done the work. For the teacher, then the teacher has to keep track of it. So that's a burden on our teachers who are already away from the classroom. They're already in this new setting, that tiny little screen, right? And they're doing this and then they have to keep track of. So is that a undue hardship or burden from a workload?
Does that cause the teacher to pay attention to those 12 kids more than the other 12 kids? Because these 12 kids are getting grades and these 12 aren't, right? I don't know, but if you're balancing your time, I just worry about what we're asking. And I think the teachers are going to give feedback to all elementary students. They're all going to get those important comments that everybody lives for. They want to hear from their teacher. They want to know they're doing a good job. Parents want to know where their students need help so that they can plan and work during the summer. They're going to get those valuable comments.
Okay,
I'm really
any more?
release on the elementary schools.
Okay, any more questions or comments? All right, ready to take a vote? Samuel, you're first.
Yes.
Okay. Member Smith?
I am voting for the exact same reason Mike is, and I'm voting no.
Member Espinosa?
Oh, God, I don't know. There are aspects of this that I really like, and there are aspects that I don't like. I think I'm gonna have to vote no. I'm sorry.
Member Lynn?
This is not the perfect setup, but this is as perfect as we can get in the current situation. So I'm a yes.
I'm a yes. Member Nolenberg?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries
3-2.
3-2. All right, we'll move on to item number 21. It's approval of the 2020-2021 Board of Education meeting calendar. We have any comments from the public? Guess not. Okay. Someone want to make a motion?
Move to approve or accept.
A motion by member Smith. Second. I'm sorry. Who was the second?
Second, Nolenberg.
Okay, no. Second by member Nolenberg. Okay, I wanted to point out that we have the annual organizational meeting scheduled for December 11th or December 9th, I'm sorry. But the law has changed and newly elected board members will not be seated until the second Friday in December, which is the 11th. So we'll need to have our organizational meeting after December 11th. And we can either do a special meeting or wait until our next regular meeting in January. Does anybody have any feelings about that?
Is there any reason we just can't move the entire meeting of the 11th back?
It wouldn't be back. It would, the meeting is on the 9th.
Yes, I mean, I'm sorry,
we need
the
to
9th.
have it after the 11th.
We'll just have the meeting and the regular meeting and the organizational meeting on the 16th.
And that's our only meeting in December anyway.
There'll
The
only be one
only
issue
concern
with
I
that.
have is we usually have, that's when the holiday programs are that week. But I mean, personally, I'd prefer to have a regular meeting on the 9th. That way we're not rushed for time. And if we need to do the organizational meeting the next week, we can do it in a short period of time and make it to any holiday concerts or. Anybody have any feelings about that?
Acceptable.
I don't have a calendar, so I'm fine.
So we're saying we're moving it up?
No, it has to be after the 11th. It has to be later.
Oh, later. Okay. Okay.
Because newly elected board members cannot take their seat until the 11th. So we couldn't have the organization on the 9th when we have people that aren't official yet.
Yeah. Okay.
So
I
it has to be after the 11th, just the organizational part of it.
got it.
So any preferences?
Would you be opposed to having a board meeting to address the new board members so that we can have the first interim at that time? Because there's a deadline for first interim.
Oh, when's that?
Mary Ann, can you weigh in on the deadline for first interim?
The 15th has to be at LACO.
So the first interim report has to be to LACO by the 15th.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
We want to do it on a Saturday, the 12th?
I would be fine with that.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Sure.
Okay.
December 12th, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, just the organizational part of it
and the first interim.
and the first interim.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Okay. So we'll have a special meeting on December 12th. Okay, so
Okay.
Matt and Ken, since you made the motion in the second, you're okay with that modification?
Yes.
Yes, we did. Yes.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead and vote on it. Member Espinosa,
Yes.
Member Lynn,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Member Nolenberg,
Yes.
and Member Smith.
Yes.
Okay, item 22, receive board policies for first reading, board policy 4113.5, 4213.5, 4313.5, working remotely, and board policy 6157, distance learning.
Move to approve.
And would you like to give us a little overview?
Yeah, so these are brand new policies. They were just created and sent out to all of the member districts from CSBA. And this is just language to address and keep in mind when we have staff working remotely, and then when we have online learning, distance learning environments for students. And so this wasn't a prior need. And so there wasn't really board policy that addressed this, but these are the board policies coming straight from CSBA. They've been reviewed by legal. And so all of the policy you'll see is new language. There has been no alterations from us at this point. And this is just to guide us into those two areas. But they should be going through the same board policy review, and we were asked to put them on our next board agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, would someone like to make a motion?
Matt did.
Oh, you did?
I did. I got cut out though, I think.
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, motion by member Smith, second by member Espinosa. Okay, any questions or comments?
We're just receiving them, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's just for first reading. Okay,
Okay.
member Lynn?
Yes.
Oh, wait. I'm so sorry. Samuel, I forgot you. I forgot you
okay.
last time too. I hope you're okay with the calendar. Okay.
I'll be gone anyways.
I know, okay, but you can vote on this one.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, Mike. Member Lynn?
Yes.
Okay, I'm a yes. Member Nolenberg?
Yes.
Okay, member Smith
Yes.
and member Espinosa.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries 5-0. All right, next we have 23, approval of the Public Agency Retirement Services, PARS Supplementary Retirement Plan. And
I'll move.
okay, Member Espinosa makes motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any comments or questions
And
about
Mary Ann,
this?
can you just give an update on this item?
Sure. As I mentioned in my comments at the beginning, we did have 27 people. 22 are certificated non-management for classified non-management and 1 classified management. The cabinet is working on analyzing our enrollment data against staffing needs, and we'll be coming back to the board in a very soon board meeting to go through the specifics of the savings and costs related to this. We did receive about twice as many as predicted in the certificated category.
Okay. All right, any questions, comments? All right. Samuel?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I had my mic muted. I did have a question.
Oh, okay, sorry, go ahead.
When was the cutoff date to submit these versus when did the pandemonium break out?
April 15 was the turn-in date, and March 13, I think, was pandemonium.
Okay, we're good. Okay.
Okay, so I'll go first on this one. I'm a yes. Member Nolenberg? Can you need to unmute your mic. Ken, your mic is muted.
I think he just dropped off. He just dropped off.
I think we lost him. I'll try to get him back.
Okay. All right, I'll do everybody else. Member Smith?
Yes.
Member Espinosa?
Yes.
Member Lynn?
Yes.
Okay, we just need Ken.
He joined, I think. I heard a beep.
I don't see it.
His computer died, but they're trying to get him back on.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I should plug mine in.
Can we just finish the vote and move on? It's not.
Okay, I just confirmed they're going to have him call in. His computer died. It
Okay.
should take him a minute or two. Mr. Westgate is there helping him with that.
Okay, great. Okay, next time I got to get a more comfortable chair. This one's hard.
Next time I'm bring that Supergirl cutout and just put it here. I'll just sit her here.
So are we agendizing those items for next one?
Is that Ken?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
Maybe Donna, you want to call a break, 5 minutes?
Sure. Does everyone want to take a quick restroom break or?
He is logging in right now. So if you guys,
okay.
Donna,
Okay,
it's up
okay.
to you.
Okay.
I just confirmed with Bobby's put in the password.
You okay, Mike?
Okay, I'm all right.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
There he is.
All right.
There he is.
Okay, Ken.
Andy,
He's
can we
back.
unmute Ken?
Ken, we're voting on the approval of the PAR supplementary retirement plan.
I vote yes.
Okay, motion carries 5-0. All right, next we move on to item 24, approval of the superintendent contract extension and addendum.
Move
Oh,
to
you-
approve.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Move to approve.
Okay, motion by member Smith,
Second.
second by
Lynn.
Second by member Lynn. Okay, and I need to read the script. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54953, Subdivision 3C3, the board provides this oral summary of the proposed addendum to the current employment contract for Superintendent Dr. Kimberly Fricker. It is proposed that Dr. Fricker receive an extension of her current contract, which expires on June 30th, 2021 to June 30th, 2023. It is proposed that Dr. Fricker receive the following annual salary under the terms of the contract addendum: $243,680.94 effective July 1st, 2019, reflecting a 2.5% increase to current salary, with back pay to be paid in a single lump sum on the next available payroll. $249,036.56 effective July 1st, 2020. $254,036.56 effective July 1st, 2021, and $259,036.56 effective July 1st, 2022. Section 5J of the current contract shall expire on June 30th, 2020, and shall be considered of no force and effect as of that date. All other terms and conditions of Dr. Fricker's current contract shall remain unchanged. Upon approval, any contract becomes public record. Okay, does anybody have any questions or comments? Okay, we'll take a roll call vote. Member Nolenberg?
Yes.
Oh, wait, I forgot Samuel again. I'm sorry, Samuel.
Yes.
Would you like to vote on this?
It doesn't really matter.
Okay,
I'll vote
that's
yes.
fine. All right, Member Smith?
Yes.
Member Espinosa?
Yes.
Member Lynn?
Yes.
And I'm a yes also. So the motion carried 5-0. Okay, item 25A is approve opening a public hearing to discuss revised salary schedules and language changes for the July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020 superintendent, associate superintendent, assistant superintendent, and chief business officer management employees agreement pursuant to AB 1200. Can I get a motion and a sec? Oh, it's 9:07.
I motion.
Motion by member Espinosa. Second was member Nolenberg.
Yes.
Okay. Member Smith.
Oh, you're taking the vote. Yes.
Yeah, this is to open the public hearing. Member Espinosa.
Yes.
Member Lynn.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Member Nolenberg.
Yes.
Okay, so the public hearing is now open. Do we have anybody who wants to speak to this? Josh?
I don't have
I'm
anybody.
sorry. Who motioned and seconded?
Melissa and then Ken.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, since we don't have anyone who wants to speak to it, can I get a motion to close the public hearing at 9:10?
I'll make the
Member, okay, Ken said he motioned. Who's the second?
Yes.
I already got you. Who seconded?
Nolenberg.
I heard Mike.
Member Lynn, okay. Okay, Member Espinosa?
Yes.
Member Lynn?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Member Nolenberg?
Yes.
And Member Smith?
Yes.
Okay. 25C is approve revised salary schedules and language changes for the July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020 superintendent, associate superintendent, assistant superintendent, and chief business officer management employees agreement pursuant to AB 1200. Can I get a motion and a second?
I motion.
Motion by member Espinosa,
Second it.
second by member Nolenberg. Any questions or comments? Okay, Samuel,
Yes.
member Lynn,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Member Nolenberg,
Yes.
member Smith,
Yes.
and member Espinosa.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 5-0. Next, we're on to the consent calendar. Is everyone okay with approving everything at one time?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by member Nolenberg, second.
Second?
Second by member Smith. Okay, Samuel?
Yes.
Okay. I'm a yes. Member Nolenberg?
Yes.
Member Smith?
Yes.
Member Espinosa?
Yes.
And member Lynn?
Yes.
Okay. Consent calendar passes 5-0. Okay, we're on to board comments. Do any board members have a comment? I have one. So this meeting is on the district's YouTube channel now.
Yes, that is correct.
So can people watch it tomorrow?
Yes, it'll be up. It'll remain up there until we move it to the district website.
Okay.
So
And
stay.
how do we find the YouTube channel?
Right now, it's on the board agenda. We will move it onto the website. It should be on the website as well, but we'll put it in a little bit more.
It is on the website.
Is it? Yeah.
When you look at meeting details, when it says at their teleconference, there's the link right there.
Oh, so we can just click on that and it'll take us to the YouTube channel?
Yep.
Okay, all right, thank you. Anybody else have any comments or?
Yes, just one. I just like to make sure we put on the agenda for some later date, lessons learned on this and how we're going to change the way we teach or any other things that come up.
Okay, anybody else?
Are we on future?
Well, we
agenda?
weren't on that yet, but anybody else have any more comments or questions? Okay, so for the future agenda items, Ken wants the lessons learned. Does anybody else have anything?
Yeah, and actually we have it in our minutes too. The last meeting we talked about recognizing our seniors with banners in the city, and that's not on a future agenda item, but I think we should bring that up pretty dang soon if we're gonna make it happen.
Okay. I noticed too, there was a group of people on Facebook that were rather excited about that. I don't know if anybody's contacted you.
They have, just about the announcement of graduation, and then we will message out. We're working with the city on like banners and where they can go, light poles, how many do we have? So there's just logistics that we need to work out with the city, and then we're working with Richard, Mike Kidd, and ASB. So we should get that to you definitely by the next board meeting for public comment, but we will get that to the board shortly, as soon as we can get it wrapped up.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anything else for the future board agenda?
Are the May meetings that are set at the future board meetings good? The 13th and 27th, and June the 10th and the 24th?
Right now.
Okay. You'll let us know if there's a change, right?
Yeah, those are all scheduled and they're confirmed as of now. We'll let you know if there's anything that's going to come up from now until then.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and yes, did someone else have something? I guess, do we have any additional public comment, Josh? No.
No.
Sorry, I was muted as well. No other public comments came in.
Okay, all right, thank you. Well, surprised Jerry didn't chime in here sometime. Okay, it is now 9:16. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Well,
Motion by member Smith, second by
Nolenberg.
member Nolenberg. Okay, Samuel? You want to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn the meeting.
Is that, you okay with that? Yes?
Yeah, at 9:18.
Okay, all right, member Nolenberg,
Yes.
member Smith,
Yes.
member Espinosa,
Yes.
member Lynn,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have
Went a little
good night.
smoother than last time, huh?